Hi, Adam Taylor with ITS here. Today we're going to be taking a look at a classroom management favorite, Limit. So Limit is a powerful toolset that allows you to limit exactly which websites, which programs your students are allowed to access during your class. This is one of the main features of LanSchool, and indeed one of the main reasons why people look for classroom management software in the first place. As a staple feature of the LanSchool product, we do expect most teachers to use Limit most of the time in their classes. Today we're going to take a look exactly how to set it up for your class and how to get the most out of the features. So Limit is based off of these four tools here. We have Limit Web for websites, Limit Apps for installed programs and applications, Limit Drives, which will block things like USB sticks and CD-ROM drives from being accessed, and Limit Print, which stops students from sending jobs to the printer. So let's start with Limit Web. By default, Limit Web, with a single click, will disable the web browser. When this happens, the students will see a message saying that all websites are currently blocked. So to the right of the Limit Web icon is a drop-down. If we then select Configure Web Limiting, we can choose exactly what this button does. So by default, we have Block All, which will disable all web browsing as we've just seen. It'll disable the browser, and that works on Internet Explorer, Chrome, Firefox and Safari. The next option down is to only allow certain websites. So this allows you to create your own custom web filter just for your class, and this means that you could only allow access to, say, 3 websites that you commonly use while blocking absolutely everything else. If you know in advance which websites you're going to allow in your class, then this is probably the best option for you, as it's very restrictive and students won't be allowed to access anything without your permission. The third option is to block specific websites. So this will allow you to name websites, here we have Facebook, and you can block these from being accessed during your class. This is a bit more open than the previous option. You're essentially saying that they can access anything except the websites that you're specifying. In either instance, you can load and save these lists, so if you teach more than one subject, then you can have different lists for different subjects where different online resources might be used. In this instance, we'll keep the third option enabled and just block Facebook. So now I'm free to go to any website I like. And LanSchool won't block me. If I try going to Facebook, the LanSchool student client will deny me there. Conversely, if I only wanted to allow one website, I could do the same thing here. So now under this rule, I can only go on Facebook. Probably not something you'd want for your class. Now Facebook will load, but if I try going to the LanSchool website, I get this message saying that only the following websites are allowed with a link back to that website. So doing this really allows you to configure a profile that's quite unique to your class. You can build a little portal of your own and just have the links listed there for students to be able to bounce between them. Let's use a better example. If I only allow mathquiz.co.uk and the LanSchool website, now as a student I'll just have the 2 links there. Now as long as I stay at a website within this domain, LanSchool will not block me. Try navigating away and it will block me every time. Now that these policies are configured, I can now toggle between them from the drop-down. So I don't need to change the setting every time. I can go from block all, or switch to my allowed list, or switch to my block list. So it's really worth taking the time to set this up properly. Once you've got your list set up, you can save them and export them here. and then you can load them in for your next class. Now the next tool we'll be looking at is limit apps. This works in a very similar way. We have a drop down to the right hand side, and we can configure an allow list where only the whitelisted applications are permitted, or we can set up a block list and we can choose which applications aren't allowed in our class. We can also configure both lists, save them, and then switch between the two on the fly. In this first example, we'll only allow MS Paint. Now the student gets a message saying that Internet Explorer has been blocked because it's not on the allow list. If they try opening up another application, for example the Xbox app, that too is going to get blocked and the student's going to get a message. If I open up MS Paint, however, this is permitted, while all other apps remain blocked. Similarly, I can switch to only block the calculator while everything else is allowed. Now I can open up my browser, my Xbox app, but just not the calculator. Now it's worth pointing out here that as of LanSchool 8 we support both the installed programs as normal, and we also support the Universal Windows Platform apps that were introduced in Windows 10. So between the two, there shouldn't be anything that you can't block with limit apps. If we go back to our block list, you might notice here we have the exact process names in place. We don't expect you to know them, so you can load these in from your own machine, and there's two ways of doing this as well. The first one is to load the application on your PC. I now have the proper name of the application, and I can just click Add to add it to the list. The second method is to find the application on your PC. Whichever way you do it, once you've created your list, again you just want to save that list, and now you can load it for your next class anytime. The last two tools are a bit simpler. They have no configuration, they're just a blunt instrument as soon as you turn them on. With limit drives, we disable any external drive access. So this will be things like USB sticks, external hard drives, and the CD-ROM drive. When this is switched on, the student will get a message. Stating that the teacher has disabled all external drive access. Now really from a teaching point of view, this is something you'd probably keep on all the time. The only time students would need USB access is to copy off homework, for example. So you can turn limit drives on and leave it on for the duration of the class. When it's time to copy something on or off a USB stick, that's something you can now do at a set time. Just lift the restriction. And once again, the student will get a pop-up notification saying that you've done this. They can then copy files onto or off the USB stick for homework-related reasons. And then once that period of time is done, limit the drive once more. Limit print works in a very similar way. This will stop students from being able to access print queues, which they need in order to send print jobs to a printer. By turning on limit print, once again, they will get a message in the corner. And this will prevent them from sending any print jobs. So this is another classic classroom distraction. Student sends work to a printer, then has to leave the class to go and get it. By turning on limit print, you're essentially saying that you're not permitting any printing during your class, and you have that control. The students will then have to print before or after the class, knowing that they can't do it during the class. So again, this is another staple. This is one that you can keep on more or less all the time, unless there's a set time during your class when students are allowed to print. And truly, as a best practice, you should configure all 4 of these tools, have them saved as a profile, and use them in every class you teach. As a recommendation, use the allowed websites for your website filtering, and make sure that they are only using resources that you're expecting to use in the class. For applications, leave it open, but maybe just block any applications that you feel are distracting. Some of the baked-in Windows 10 apps are a good example of this. And drive and print you can leave switched on. By implementing these 4 tools, using them smartly and using them in every class, you're really locking down what students are able to do with the PCs, making it more like a kiosk with an intentional purpose, rather than an open access PC that they can use for anything. If you want to promote a controlled and efficient classroom environment, this is a fantastic place to start. And once students know that they don't have all of these distractions available to them, they're much more likely to focus on the task at hand.